Well, welcome everybody to this Good Friday edition of our daily meditation on Father Jacques Philippe's book, Searching for and Maintaining Peace. I've really enjoyed being with you over these days. We're, just a little less than halfway through, so we probably have a couple more weeks, maybe even 3 more weeks of doing this during this crazy coronavirus lockdown time. Here we are, Good Friday. My goodness, I often think the audacity of the church to call this day Good Friday, the day on which the most horrific evil was revealed, the crucifixion of the Son of God, which is the concentration of all evil in one spot on one human being, all the evil of human history dumped on him. He absorbed it, and the church calls it good. This means there is no hell that cannot become glory. There is no suffering that cannot be transformed into joy, into ecstasy. We're going to be talking today more about this, the cross, the agony and the ecstasy going together. But of course, we only have about 15 minutes in these reflections. So I've put a link below to a longer presentation of mine, a reflection on the passion, death, and resurrection of the Lord like you've never heard. I urge you to go to that link and watch the full reflection. I think it will be a good meditation for you on this Good Friday. But let's jump right in with a prayer in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Lord, reveal to us today through the wisdom of Father Jacques Philippe the mystery of the cross, the mystery of this Good Friday. Take us into the great mystery of your love for your bride, the church, consummated on the cross. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. The themes today in Father Jacques' book really do actually lend themselves beautifully to a reflection on the cross. So let's go for it here. We're on page 41, and he begins with a reflection on Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Now pause right there. There are different ways to understand I shall not want. And in various Eastern non-Christian religions, the idea of I shall not want means you annihilate your desire. The goal of not wanting is to not want anything, to erase, to repress, to suffocate desire itself. This is not what the psalmist means. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. There's another way to understand this. I shall not want because the Lord will fill full my deepest longing and desire. So we're back to one of the main themes we've been talking about here, desire. I want to quote here from Pope Benedict XVI. Now, when the church talks about this deepest longing of the heart, the deepest ache and hunger and desire, the church borrows her language from the Greeks and calls this ache for infinite love, for infinite happiness. It's called Eros. Eros, right? Now, when I was first learning this in my 20s, I realized I was confusing the word Eros with another Greek word, porneia, which we know what English word we get from that, right? Porneia, pornography, Eros, erotic. I thought that which is erotic was pornographic. And John Paul II said, no. Eros is the desire that God put in us for everything true, good, and beautiful. Now listen to this from Pope Benedict XVI. He says, man's aching desire for the infinite is like a signature imprinted with fire in his soul and his body by the Creator himself. This ache called Eros is God's signature on our humanity. The heart's thirst and the body's longing cannot be eliminated. Thus, man unknowingly stretches out in search of the infinite, but in misguided directions. See, Eros has become misdirected. I like to say, if you're familiar with my talks, you've heard me say it before, God gave us Eros to be like the fuel of a rocket that has the power to launch us to the stars. But the problem is with original sin, our rocket engines became inverted. They're no longer pointing to the stars, they're pointing back upon ourselves. That's the problem, right? So Christ does not want to annihilate our desires. He wants to redirect them towards what we really are made for, what we really desire. This is exactly Pope Benedict's point here. He says, the heart's thirst, the body's longing cannot be eliminated. Thus, man unknowingly stretches out in search of the infinite, but in misguided directions. And then he lists some examples: in drugs, in sexuality lived in a disordered way, in all-encompassing technologies, in success at any cost, and even in deceptive forms of religiosity. Then he says this, but the dynamism of desire is always open to redemption. The pilgrimage of desire, the pilgrimage of Eros, he says, is not about suffocating the longing that dwells in our hearts, but about freeing it, liberating it, directing it rightly so it can reach its true height, so it can truly launch us to the stars, to the infinite love for which we are made, for which we are destined. My brothers and sisters, this is life-changing. Christianity is not about the repression of desire. It's about the redemption of desire. And only in as much as our desires are being redeemed, redirected, can we truly find the peace we are looking for. Back here to page 41 at the bottom. God leaves us wanting for nothing. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. But that raises a very important question. What do we want? This is the very first question that St. John puts on the mouth of Jesus in his gospel. The very first words of Jesus in the Gospel of John are, what do you want? This is the all-important question, because if we are aiming our desires at superficial wants, if we are not in touch with our deepest desires, then we will think the Lord is not my shepherd. He doesn't satisfy my desires because I desire X, Y, and Z, and I'm not getting X, Y, and Z. But maybe the Lord knows what we really want more than we do. Maybe the Lord is not granting certain desires of our hearts because those desires are misdirected. Page 42 here. This is something, Jacques Philippe says, that greatly impedes our spiritual progress. It's the temptation to believe that we lack something essential. But again, what do we believe is essential? That's the question, right? Sometimes, oftentimes, indeed, all of us at some point, in many ways, need our desires to be purified, need our desires to be redirected towards what we really want. We can have this kind of very painful feeling, bottom of page 42, that the real life that we want is somewhere else. And we become entirely discontent with the life that we actually have because we think we want that life over there. So the feeling that real life is elsewhere, it leads us to concentrate on what we think of as negative in our own life. And this renders us unhappy. But here's the key point, page 43. It is not the exterior circumstances in our lives that must change. Rather, it is above all our hearts that must change. I'm thinking of Christ saying, where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. If we have a false treasure, that's where our heart will be. And we will not be able to say, the Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I shall want, because we're chasing after things that are false treasures. And the Lord, in his love for us, will not grant us these false treasures. He will want to, if we allow him, to redirect our hearts towards the true treasure. We are never as free as when we desire what we really desire. And here we need a re-education of desire. We need, to quote Pope Benedict XVI, we need a pedagogy of desire, a method of educating our desires towards what they really want. And Father Jacques says something very similar here, bottom of page 43. Many of the circumstances that we tend to think are negative in our lives and damaging are in fact God's pedagogy, God's way of teaching us. And they have become a powerful means for helping us to progress and grow, because the Lord is seeking to redirect our desires towards what we really want through various strippings, through various trials, COVID-19, coronavirus, lockdown, anybody. These are opportunities for us to get back to that very basic, most fundamental question asked by Jesus right at the start of the Gospel of John. What do you want? Lord, sometimes I don't even know what I want. Sometimes I think I want this and I get really, really mad that you don't grant me what I think I want. I remember being on a retreat some years ago, and the retreat master, beautiful, beautiful, holy priest, when he was a young man, when he was a young priest, his spiritual director was Padre Pio. I kid you not. He's now in his 90s, this priest. I still go to him for retreat. And he said, Christopher, you need to learn how to pray. And I'm going to take you through these exercises that are going to get you in touch with your deepest desires, because prayer is a journey of desire, he said. I was like, okay, sure, whatever. So I'm on this retreat and I'm getting in touch with these desires, going through these exercises. And I'm realizing I have a lot of unfulfilled desires, right? The Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want. What? I look at my history and I got desire after desire after desire that were unfulfilled in my life. And with this realization came rage. I mean, anger at God that I didn't even know I had in there. And it exploded. God, I get it. I get it why people hate you. I get it why people are atheists. You give us all these desires and I can't get a hold of anything that seems to satisfy it. What the beep? Who the beep do you think you are? It came out like an exploding volcano. And I called him up. I said, Monsignor, I know I'm not supposed to see you till tomorrow, but I got to go to confession right now. He said, okay, come on over. I said, bless me, Father. It's been 3 hours since my last confession. And I told him exactly what I said to God, and I'll never forget his response. He said, good prayer. Christopher, that was a good prayer. You just prayed Psalm 22 in union with Jesus. My God, why have you abandoned me? I was like, what? He says, you don't need to confess that you got mad at God. You don't need to confess that you got real with God. You need to confess that you haven't been real with God. You've been wearing all these pious masks to try to please God. Now you're learning how to get naked before your maker. That, he said, that is prayer. You are learning how to pray. And if you keep pressing into this, you will discover the Lord's love for you right there. And that itself will begin redirecting your desires towards what you really want. You know what it is, my brothers and sisters? It's a process, it's a journey of learning true worship. What does this mean? True worship. Think about it. Worship means worthship. We all worship something. We worship whatever we think is going to satisfy our desires. That's what we worship. If we think money is going to satisfy our desires, we're going to worship money. If we think sex is going to satisfy our desires, we're going to worship sex. What do you ascribe ultimate worth to? That's what you worship. Christ wants to bring us to ascribe ultimate worth to his love. And that leads us right here to the mystery of Good Friday. If we understand what is happening here on the cross, and this artist brings us right into the heart of the matter. Here we have the new Adam, and here we have the new Eve. This, what happened at the cross, all the early fathers spoke in these terms. When you dig into what the church has always understood about the cross, we've always understood that this is the consummation of a marriage. Christ, the bridegroom, giving up his body for his bride. This is my body given up for you. Mary at the foot of the cross is the symbol of the church. Jesus calls her woman. And this goes back to the first Adam who called Eve woman. We have on Good Friday the bridegroom fulfilling the desire of the bride. What do you want? What do we really want? We want infinite love. We want infinite satisfaction of our hunger. Here it is. Here is infinite love poured out. Let me quote from Pope Benedict XVI here. Listen to this. He says, Eros is part of God's very heart. The Almighty awaits the yes of his creatures as a young bridegroom awaits the yes of his bride. Then he says, and on the cross, God's Eros is made manifest for us. Eros is indeed that force which does not allow the lover to remain in himself, but moves the lover to become one with the beloved. It is there, right here on the cross, that we discover the Eros of God. He says, is there any more mad Eros? This is the mad Eros of God. Is there any more mad Eros than that which led the Son of God to make himself one with us, even to the point of bearing all of our offenses himself, becoming one with us in our deepest agony, becoming one with us in our deepest suffering, becoming one with us in that cry, my God, why have you abandoned me? My brothers, my sisters, where are we most united with God? So often, this is where we reject it. We don't want it. But we are often most united with God in our bitter sufferings. The marriage bed of the cross. What an amazing expression from St. Augustine. The marriage bed of the cross. The marriage of Christ and the church is consummated, not in pleasure, but in pain. If this teaches us anything, it's that the agony and the ecstasy go together in learning the truth of love. My brothers and sisters, what do we want? We want love, but we resist that love involves suffering. We resist that love involves a certain agony. We want the ecstasy without the agony. And that, my brothers and sisters, is the root of all sin. Trying to grasp at the ecstasy and not accepting that the way to the ecstasy we desire is the agony of the cross. The Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing I shall want. We want for nothing when we realize that even our deepest sufferings are a path of learning what it means to love. And we'll wrap up here, bottom of page 44. Never under any circumstance would he leave us lacking in the essentials. That is to say, never would he leave us lacking anything that would permit us to learn how to love more. Our sufferings are a way of learning how to love more. To grow and to enrich one's spiritual life is to learn how to love. Page 45, he will never leave me in want of anything that would allow me to grow unceasingly ever closer to him. I hold this out to you, my brothers and sisters, on this Good Friday. He withholds nothing from us that leads us closer to him. What we resist, what I know I resist, pray for me as I pray for you in this human dilemma. Sufferings are a kiss from heaven for us. Sufferings teach us to love. Sufferings are an intimate communion with Christ the bridegroom. He wants to be one with us in our sufferings. Why? Not to leave us there, not to leave us in the sufferings, but to grab hold of our sufferings with us, so to speak, and to transform those sufferings into glory, to pass over through those sufferings into glory. The agony is the way to the ecstasy. This is what the marriage bed of the cross teaches us. It leads to the glory of the resurrection. When your life is as dark can be, give it 3 days. As I said recently in one of these videos, give it 3 days, and the glory of the resurrection is a certain promise and hope that we can base everything on. Forgive me for going a little bit longer than our 15-minute typical time mark on these videos, but I had a lot I wanted to share. I have so much more to share with you about the mystery of the cross. Click the link below to take you to that longer meditation on Good Friday and the resurrection, and I will see you on Easter Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Shout out to everybody here. I won't go through the names just because I know we've gone too long today. But thanks for tuning in, and share this video with anybody you think may need it. God bless you, and I'll see you on the other side, Easter Monday. Peace.